Hey guys, my name's Bethany and welcome to another video. Today we are doing our third episode of Planet Zoo and we're going to be working on a different animal habitat, and this time we're heading to Australia and we're going to do a dingo habitat. And I thought long and hard about what animals I wanted to do next, and oftentimes in zoos you see like an Australian section, and sometimes it's near like a children's zoo or near the front, so I thought it'd be kind of interesting to do that here. I also wanted like a little statue, or essentially like a picture taking area right here at the front, so I decided on a dodo, which I think is kind of cute, and we'll make it all nice and tropical in here, perfect for pictures, just like you'd want in any zoo. The zoo I used to work for had a whole bunch of bronze statues like all over the zoo. Right at the front there was a little baby elephant, even though the elephants were nowhere near there. I mean, they were at one point. They were in the Pachyderm building right there at the front, but the elephant stayed there, so I thought it didn't really matter what statue I put here as long as it was fun. So a dodo it was. And like I said, we're going to be doing the dingo, and I looked on Pinterest for a long time to get some inspiration, and I came upon one image. I don't know what the habitat was for originally. It was in a real zoo somewhere, but it was just the glass was coming out of a rock, and it looked like you were looking from a cave into a different rocky habitat, and along the back wall was all rock. So that's kind of where I got my inspiration, but I just made it a lot bigger for the dingoes. And I actually think this habitat is bigger than a dingo would technically need. At the moment there are going to be 4 in the habitat, and whenever you look at their space requirements, they are under, so they're doing well, and I'm assuming if they ever have like puppies or something, it'll probably meet the space requirements. So, but they haven't had puppies, so I have no idea. And this here is all going to change, so ignore me. I had the idea of putting like toilets on the outside of the building, kind of like a men's women's situation, or like handicapped on one side, family on the other, something along those lines. But we end up putting them inside of the building, and this is, you know, kind of like the entry building into the Australian area, so I wanted it to be kind of large. That way, you know, we could build from there. There's not going to be any other animal habitat stemming from the building, but it's like your intro building into the whole country, continent, whatever section. So thought we'd make it kind of big, and it looks really weird at first, and I have to cut out quite a bit of me just like moving the camera around in different directions. It almost looks like the cursor or the camera is having a seizure or something because it's going back and forth so much, because I had a little bit of trouble with inspiration on how I wanted it to look. And here I am struggling with pathways, as I do, you know, all the time. They're my mortal enemy. But yeah, this will change a little bit, and it's gonna look pretty rough before we finally end up with an end product, so bear with me. So like I said, in here we're going to have one viewing area, and then on the outside we'll have another. So it's like an outdoor viewing. I'm also going to put a building with a chief beef and a gulpy. So we have the first of our little food courts outside of the main entrance. And I'll work more on that off of camera and put some seating areas around it. And I initially put it right here in front of the building, but I move it over to the side towards the end. I just think it looks better. We're going to use a whole bunch of this Australian construction pieces here, as well as the roof pieces that look like metal, like the rusted metal. I think it looks really cool, but then the blueprint or the overlay I put around the different food court items is like the one that comes with the Australian pack, and that uses a lot of those roof pieces too, and it looked like just too much in front of the building, so I moved it over. And I had no idea what I was going to do at this point, to be honest with you. I knew I wanted like a little narrow entrance so it almost mimicked a cave, but I didn't know what I was going to do inside or what shape I was going to do. So here you see I'm starting the rock. I decided just to use this smooth rock, and then the whole outside of the habitat is in the smooth rock, and then the inside we use a few desert rocks, so it looks kind of more like the outback of Australia. Granted, I've never been to the outback, so I'm not completely sure, but I'm pretty sure it like gives the vibe of what I know. And the building ends up almost emerging from the rock. That's the look I wanted to give. And like I mentioned in the last video, I have a thing for the terrain manipulation in this game. I love doing it, even if it doesn't look even remotely natural. I think it looks really cool, and it helps differentiate between different areas of the zoo. You can use it for like tunnels, mountains, caves, all kinds of stuff. So I like to use it, and I'll probably use it a ton in the zoo. But you can kind of see you're getting that vibe here. You have almost like a cave top, and then it'll fade into just like the Australian wood pieces, and I think it looks really cool. And I'm using some rocks here to fill in that space above so it continues to come down, and I'll use quite a bit of rocks. I think I use the temperate rocks for the outside because it matches that rock texture because we're in the temperate zoo. The base map is temperate, so I think I put it in North America temperate, probably. That's probably what I do every time, but it seems to give the biggest variety, especially if you're going to be using a whole bunch of different types of animals or whatever. If you're not going for like just desert or whatever, I like using the temperate, and then I just use North America because that's where I live. So I guess I'm most comfortable with it. I wish, I know I've said this, and I'm going to say it a million more times, I'm sure, before we get done building this zoo, but the paths, you see how it was hanging out the side of the building? It's very annoying. I wish you could be more specific on where you wanted the path to go and what size. I feel like the lowest or like the smallest length you can get isn't small enough, if that makes any sense. It makes it almost a little too hard to control where you're putting it, especially whenever you're trying to do the square grid. It just feels almost impossible to get it exactly where you want it. So I think I end up covering this part with rock, and then I'll put some bushes or something off camera so you can't tell that it's hanging out the side. Granted, I don't know if guests can walk through the walls to walk on it. I don't think so. But they do seem to walk through like plants and stuff if you put them down. So I have no idea. And here we're actually getting to the outside of the habitat. And like I said, I made it kind of big at first, and then I did make it a little bit smaller, at least at first. And then I went with two-way glass. I think that's just best because then it looks very clean and it tends not to bother the animals as much as if you had regular glass. And then I put some wood on the outside, but then I end up covering almost that entire area with rock anyway, so it doesn't even matter. And I'm messing with the paths and deleting and messing and deleting and messing, and they still don't look as great as I want them to, but we'll fix that at a later date. It'll be fine. Behind where I just messed with the paths and where the food part is going to go, so opposite of where we're at right now. I'm probably going to do the koalas or some other smaller exhibit so that we fill in this area. And you can see back there I've got like a little rock or terrain little outline, and that's to the edge of the negative guest influence from the staff area. So I didn't want to put a food court or a building or something within there because then you just have mad guests all the time. So I put that there just as a reminder for myself, and then I'll probably fix that at a later date or block that off and make it trees. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So here I go. I'm putting the wood and all of that on there and do a whole bunch of rocks, and then we'll go on to I'm pretty sure I do the educational bits, and I learned from my mistake from the front building, and I am doing the inside of this one before I put the roofs on. So at least there's that. At least I'm learning. Hope everybody's having a good October if you're watching this in October. It is in Southern California still 95 degrees today, and it's almost halfway through October. You can tell from my voice I'm a little mad about it. But it is supposed to get a little cooler over the next week, so fingers crossed it stays that way. I would really love if it was just in the 70s. Move to Southern California, they said. The weather's great, they said. So you can see this is where I have the idea to put the toilets on the inside. So we're doing that. I do put some conservation items in here. And where this video technically ends off, I guess, for me decorating, because I cut out a whole bunch of part at the end and honestly, I forgot to record it. I forgot to hit record whenever I went in for the last time. But it doesn't matter because you'll see the ends in the screenshot, so it doesn't matter. But I do the outside landscaping and decorating, not in the habitat, but in the front of the building off screen. So you'll see that in the screenshots, and you'll kind of see where we ended up with a whole bunch of stuff and decorating. I put like a little pool at the front. I put one of the downed logs from the South American pack that I think looks really cool. It is a little bit green. I made things almost like a little muted for the landscaping out front. I just wanted it to kind of like blend in. Oh, and you'll see this is the little food shop, outer building, or whatever you want to call it, and I do end up moving that. But you can see it has a whole bunch of those textures and the metal for the roof, and it was just a little too much when trying to do the building behind it, so I did move it. It's going to be my birthday here in about a week and a half, and that's pretty exciting. We're planning on having sushi because I love sushi. We don't eat that as often as I'd like to because it's so expensive. You know, I thought it would be less expensive moving to the coast because I lived and grew up in Oklahoma, and that's pretty much the most landlocked you can get unless you're up in like Kansas or, you know, the more northern states. But I thought it would be cheaper, but it's about the same here actually. So I guess the freshness of the fish is technically a little bit better, but it's pretty good. So we're gonna get sushi. I like pretty much all types of sushi except for spicy because I can't handle spicy, but I prefer like the really, I don't know if fancy is the right word, but the, you know, dragon rolls or stuff with a whole bunch of different parts. And I like whenever it has avocado and lots of other creamy stuff like cream cheese or whatever in it. That's not to say I like only like California rolls or Philly rolls. I do like, you know, just like tuna and rice with a little bit of sesame or, you know, something like that. But if I'm going to choose, I'm going to get the fancy ones. Or I guess I should say the more complicated ones. And then we're probably going to go thrifting because I requested that for my gift, was to go to some thrift stores and get some clothes and books. That was what I requested. So that's probably what we'll do. If you don't know, I do have a book YouTube channel as well as a blog where we do books and Disney and all that jazz. I'll link that down in the description. So if that's something you're interested in, you might also want to check that out. But I do love books and I love a good bargain, and I never feel like I have enough clothes that I like to wear. So we're going to check that out. You can see I am doing the rock back here, and I use the roughening terrain tool to kind of make it look a little bit more natural. Not that I think anyone would be convinced this was natural if they were walking into the zoo. You know, just tiny little pockets of rock, exactly where we want it in the zoo. Yeah, that's natural. But I don't know. I wanted to try at least. I wanted at least people to think like, oh, okay, they tried to at least make it natural, even if it's not real. I'm doing the terrain for the dingoes. They had really cute names. Like the girls are Willow and Lily, and I think one of the guys is Tucker. But they were really cute, and I love the new software or the new whatever that makes them different colors, because one of them is like a really deep rusty red and the other is like a lighter gray and one's a brown. I love that. I haven't played around with it too much. I need to get the wolf pack to really see. But the dingoes have a pretty good shade variation so far. I mean, I only have 4, but so far all 4 are different colors and I like it a lot. And if I've learned anything from my favorite YouTuber who plays Planet Zoo, Best in Slot, using a tree in the ground and pushing it down to make it look like bushes is the best way to get bushes. He doesn't seem to post a lot of Planet Zoo anymore. He does a whole bunch of other games in like Jurassic, whatever the dinosaur game is for Jurassic Park. I have no idea. But I wish he'd make some more because they're really good. I did put some rocks down here. You have to have some rocks, some rock piles. And then the dingoes landed on top of each other, which I thought was funny. And here they are running around. I make sure to give them enrichment. We're getting some food. Feeders. Oh, Archer maybe is the one that I was thinking of. Maybe not Tucker. Anyways, we're doing the little assigning of staff. And I'm also getting another separate staff room and keeper hut, and they'll be used for a couple of different Australian animals over here. So I like to have those as close as physically possible to the habitats because I feel like it wastes so much time if they have to walk even a little far and then the animals get mad or whatever. I realize this is a sandbox build, so I could literally turn off animal unhappiness, but I like to have at least something because I want to know that they're happy. And I like to keep my settings somewhere in the middle. So I don't like them, I mean, honestly, I don't even like them dying from old age, but I keep them somewhere in the middle. So I like to see that they're happy, but then I keep a lot of like the crappy ones off. Animals getting tired of their enrichment. I realize that's really natural and normal. Of course I do. I worked in a zoo and they change out the enrichment literally every day. That's part of like their plan of care is they have to give them something new every day or change out something in there. At least give them one new thing, whether it's scent, smell, taste, whatever, each day. So I get it. It's normal. It's exactly what they do in zoos, and I really do appreciate the realism, but boy is it annoying in a game where time moves really fast and your animal, let's say, I don't even remember, no, but let's say your animal only has like 3 toy enrichment items that make it happy, and then 2 of them are no longer fun for them because they've been in there for a while, but you have to have at least 2 separate ones. If you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of annoying, so I turned that off, but I do appreciate the realism. We've talked about it in my past videos. If there's anything I appreciate, it's realism. I'm the one who's wanting an admin building an HR for my zoo, but you know, it's easier, especially whenever you're building in Sandbox, just turn it off. Unless that's something you can like spend a whole lot of time. But whenever you're trying to build a large amount of habitats, it can be really hard to keep up with all of them. Like my flamingos have already had 4 or 5 rounds of babies, and I've only had it on for just enough time for my dingoes to go in and out of quarantine. So anyways, we're gonna be fixing here. I know the walls look a little weird, but I wasn't as committed to fixing the little gaps. Like that little ridge on one side is not there on the other, which I'm fine with because 1, you can't see the whole building at the same time, and 2, I put a whole bunch of foliage that you can't tell anyways, so I'm not mad at it. You can just ignore it. I'm gonna put a whole bunch of wall art. We're gonna do some of those really cool murals on the inside. I think they're already there actually, that are actual art, I think, from actual people. I'm pretty sure. So those there, I think they look really cool. We put a whole bunch of dingo paintings or wall objects, I guess. And there are actually less dingo stuff than there are cassowaries or the lizard that comes with this pack in decorations, which I thought was kind of weird because usually the mammals are the ones that get all the attention, but it's either kangaroo or cassowary that have the most. Koalas barely have any, so that'll be interesting whenever we're trying to build koalas. But I'm doing a whole bunch of lighting. I'm going to turn it to nighttime so you can kind of get a gist here. And I put a whole bunch of lights everywhere. I still don't think it's super lit up, but then again, these are dingoes. They'll probably be awake at night. I don't really want to like mess with them. I do put 4 lights at the front. That's about all you're gonna get to look at the dingoes. And I do put 3 lights or 4 lights or something out in the habitat just to give it a little semblance of light. But it's not too lit up. I don't put any like ceiling lights or anything. It's just a little bit, so you're not tripping over your feet when you come in. It's almost like walking into a habitat or a building at a normal zoo where you're going in the bats or whatever. They have it like fake nighttime. That's kind of what I wanted to give. You see I'm putting all those lights in there. I love these lights out front. They are so cool. And I put the little pathway shades from the Australian pack in 2 different spots. One at kind of like the entrance to Australia, finger quotes, and then another set in front of the food court area. And I think they give a little bit of dimension to the area. I like the eucalyptus trees that came with the pack too. I think they look really nice, and there are a couple of really tall ones. So I put 2 of those in front of the building as well, and they look really good. And you can see I'm doing the roof here. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't want it to look super boring, but I didn't want it to detract from what we had going on everywhere else. So it does end up looking kind of boring, but we'll make it meld into the rock a little bit, like I was saying, and it kind of, like I said, the goal is to make it look like it's emerging from the rock. So we'll do a little bit of that. Technically, there is still a gap around the very top of the wall and the roof, and I could have lowered it all down, but I just didn't feel like it. So you can't really tell, and it doesn't really even matter, but you can see a little bit of light through the roof. We're also going to change the little entrance area, those roofs, and we do change it. I don't know if it looks any better, but I think it looks a little better because you could just look straight through those little pointed bits. So I thought that looked a little weird, so we're changing it. And like I said, I did quite a bit of the decorating of the front and the pathways and stuff like that off camera. So you'll see in the screenshots at the end, I try and show a whole bunch of different angles, and you can kind of get a feel for looking into the habitat, both inside and outside, and what the whole space looks like. So stick around for those if you're curious. And we're just fixing this little area. Like I said, it's kind of weird, but at least I think it looks a little better than it did. And that's going to be about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like so more people can find us. Subscribe for more Planet Zoo content, as well as Sims and other games coming soon. Check out my book Instagram down in the description if you like those. Like I mentioned, my other YouTube channel and my blog will also be down there. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.